What is good, TikTok Nation? Hey, I'm doing this on the fly. I was going to talk about this earlier. It's funny. I had a couple things to talk about. I want to talk a little bit about ascension and our awakening process. But, 3D life, my dad and mom were watching I live out here in Oregon, on the Oregon coast. Oregon duck football is a big deal. I gave most of my life to being a slave, to being caught in that illusion and all that shit of sports. Really, it is true, though. Competition does breed division, is a thing. I coached football for a lot of years. These kids are big, strong. They beat the hell out of each other now. But before I get to what I want to talk about our ascension and our star brothers and sisters in the sky here with us, I want to talk a little bit about people getting pissed off at these kids. My dad, I heard him today out in the den. He was on the phone with his sister, and they were talking about the Duck game, Oregon Ducks game coming up today, which, that it happened. They played the Sisters of the Nobody State like they do the first week of every year. So my dad's like, oh, I know, it's just a goddamn shame these kids are making all this money in college. This kid's already a millionaire, and he's a starting quarterback just in college. And I'm like, Dad, Dad, you gotta shut the fuck up. I mean, these kids were fucking ripped off for years and enslaved into a fucking program in college football, $20 a day on the road to eat. They couldn't have part-time jobs, nor did they have time. They weren't allowed to. Let's see, they couldn't take any money from a fucking agent. Meanwhile, while these coaches and shit are getting fat as fuck, so hey, let these kids make all that fucking money on the NL and shit. I'm all for those kids getting paid. Fuck those college coaches making $8 million a year while those kids were starving. I remember Michael Jordan, or it was Charles Barkley, telling the story about how, man, he was in college and they were selling his fucking jersey in the goddamn student store, man. He didn't have enough money to go get lunch. They wouldn't, yet, if you got caught taking a little bit of money from an agent or something, it was a bribe, and they tried to blackball you and all that bullshit. Fuck that. Let these kids get paid. Just like when people get pissed off at these big superstar athletes, don't hate the player, hate the game. You got to understand, these multimillionaires you're talking about, they're working for fucking multi-billionaire fat cats. So yeah, I believe the whole thing's a problem. Competition breeds division, and the whole thing is kind of a joke. But man, your first gripe isn't with the fucking players getting what they can get. Let them get theirs. Fuck, man. Hey, the fans are going to pay for it, and those owners are going to charge it. Let them. That's the first vestige to a free market. Something like that, man. I mean, those owners need those guys. So fuck, let them pay it. Why should they continue to get fat? Why should it be okay for them to get fat? But nobody ever thinks about that. But I mean, I'm not going to get off on that too much. But, we talk about our history as a human race. There are other galactic races out there, and we hear sometimes this doom and gloom. But, a lot of these races that are more advanced than us, though, they're not completely advanced. They're trying to figure it out, too. They're trying to figure it out. Yes, I heard Bashar. I heard Daryl talking earlier. Daryl Ankud as Bashar. I've known kind of him for years. I mean, I've talked to him. It was years ago. We were friends on Facebook way back in the day, like 15 years ago and shit. So, I've talked to him a few times. He's a real quiet, good, humble guy. It's been years. But he was talking about this, about how his race, of course, and I knew this from years back, is kind of like a gray Pleiadian hybrid. They wanted their souls back. The Greys were basically a race that burned themselves out. They went one way, which is technology, and didn't take the spiritual aspect road, and the Pleiadians took the spiritual aspect road with the technology too, and advanced. But the Greys are trying to figure it out too. They're trying to get their soul back. So it's not, creation is just a constant quantum manifestation of itself. It's just one little quantum piece of nothingness that is everythingness, really. So, everything just kind of is what it is right now. I know we've got some really strong energies coming up. You've got the blood moon coming up, I believe it is on the 7th and 8th of September. It's going to be a really rugged month if you're, in tune with energies and this ascension process. And if you're not, if you tuned into this and you're hearing me talk, you're probably like, what in the fuck is he talking about? Well, the energies that are hitting the planet are really strong. I mean, I'm not here to educate anybody who doesn't already know. I don't, you can hit me in private if there's anything you want to know that I might be able to help you with. But, you've got the 9-9 portal coming up right after this. So it's bada boom, bada bing right there, right? We've had the planetary alignment again. And, so a lot of strong shit's going on, but I just thought it was funny. And because I used to be into the illusion of sports and all that shit for years and years and years. Die-hard Miami Dolphins fan, die-hard Portland Trailblazers fan, die-hard everybody that never won anything. And I mean, I followed sports since I was like 5 years old. The first real game I remember watching, actually, it was funny. I was talking about it the other night. John Lennon's death was announced. I ran across it on YouTube, and I do every so many years, but yeah, I remember the scene of the room, too. The room just went dead. It was just me and my dad on a Monday night. My mom was working at the hospital that night, and it was in the fall of 1980, and I was just 5 years old, but I have a memory clear back to when I was 2, really, really strong about shit going on, and even in the cradle, but I mean, as far as full recognition of most shit at 2. So, I just remember listening. They were playing the Patriots, and typical game, and I remember the sports announcer, Howard Cosell, that was doing the game at the time. The 3 announcers were Howard Cosell, Frank Gifford, and a guy they called Dandy Don, a good old boy, Don Meredith. And Howard broke in and announced that John Lennon had been shot dead, and I just looked up at my dad, because he was a Beatles fan, and so was I already, and, am to this day, but I just kind of, the mood, it was just, I remember, the one thing I really remember about it is the energy. Just me and my dad, and the energy just got kind of, I still remember I was playing with my blocks or something on the floor, and I kept looking at the TV and looking up at my dad, and I can remember that scene, Now, fast forward to today, and my dad and my mom are out there, and my dad's all telling her how to, for the 1,000th time, how to, when you bet on these games, and he doesn't bet, but he bets with the family and shit just for fun, for point spreads, for a few bucks, and he's like, well, you got to consider that they're playing a really lowly team, so they are gonna run up the score, but they're gonna pull their players. They're gonna pull their players like the third quarter at halftime, and so you got to figure that in. Like, Dad, and I walked out and I laughed at him. I looked at my mom. She rolled her eyes. I said, Dad, no shit. Yeah, they're playing the Sisters of the Blind University like they do every year at the start of the season. It's just how the fucking shit goes That's just what they do, and because college football's a racket. I mean, the goddamn sport didn't even have a playoff until, within the last couple of decades. And not much of one still. I mean, so, it's just big business, right? But these kids, fuck it, let them get paid. Fuck these coaches that go home, these fat-ass coaches that are making $8 million a year, right? And, somebody wants me to go into, man, I'm not, because I'm only on here real quick, guys, but I'd love to go on with you some other time. But, I mean, and these kids were starving, and they're pretty much starved out. Oh, they're getting a free education. They're not there for a fucking education, most of them. Fuck your education. Look at the money you're making off the backs of them. Give me a fucking break, yo. Let these kids get paid. I'm all for them fucking getting every goddamn dollar. These NIL contracts that these kids came up with, shit. $5 million for a starting college quarterback through his, just even an average one through his career there, hell yeah. Let him get paid, because the university's making hundreds of millions off him, more than likely. So, well, I mean, if they're good, if they're that good, you betcha they are over a, few year period there. If they're a Heisman Trophy candidate or something like that, which is the big award. Yeah, so let them get paid. I mean, my first gripe is the game. I don't hate the player, I hate the game. And these kids, let them get it. They're the one doing the work. Same thing with the pros. You only got so many years you can do that shit, man. And most of them didn't come from these fat-ass wealthy families like these conglomerate owners did, right? That own all these companies. Seriously, straight up. So, I mean, that's just kind of how it is, man. I mean, but people are so short-sighted. They'll, they really want to wring the messenger's neck. They really want to kill the messenger, and they don't want to, if they got a real problem with it, why don't you go after the colleges? Why don't you, talk about these fucking owners that own these sports teams? With these players, hey, if the owner, let me put it this way. Okay, it isn't cool, whatever. There's people starving to death out there, and we know it. It's hard to make a living out there, right? But Jesus Christ, I'm telling you what, if these owners are making that kind of money at that step, well, then the players ought to be getting it. I'm just, yeah, I mean, it ain't the fucking players who set the prices. Yeah, they want more money. Of course they're going to want theirs. Anything that owner forks out, though, he's getting back several in return, even if he tries to play a hard ass in these negotiations they have, and a guy holds out for a team for several months, and, they play this drama all over the news if you're into that bullshit. The thing about sports is it's a fucking fool's errand, though, right? As far as following a team, because I don't know, if you're an NFL fan, okay, so if you're a New England Patriots fan, yeah, it was great for about 20 years. They've won as many Super Bowls as any other team in the league. They're tied for the most ever. And they've been to the most ever, though. So, but still, they're going to lose. They don't win every year, right? And most teams don't win every year. And if you win, you're going to lose it sometime. You're going to lose more than you're going to win. And it's just kind of this thing that keeps you, caught up in this illusion, this perpetual cycle, right, of never-ending drama. It's like a pro wrestling script from the 70s or 80s or even early 90s, when they had territory wrestling, or even now, but back then when they'd keep it going for fucking months and months and months and months and months and months and months. Then, they'd have the big, ending finale, and then still nothing would ever get solved right at the end of the day, like a soap opera, right? You watch the same soap opera for 30 or 40 years or 20, 30 years, right? Okay, people that have been on there that long, and they are on a lot of them, people. I know, it's pathetic that I know that, but, I've had a lot of aunts and my mother and both grandmothers that watch the shit. So, I seen it growing up in the 80s and shit, a lot. And would be bored home from school and watch the shit. So, but everybody's married to everybody, or everybody's been married to everybody at some point, right? That's been on there, right? This guy's been with this chick, this guy's cheated on this chick with this chick's cheated on this guy with this guy, and so on and back and forth. And even if they're on there long enough, they've been married a couple times to each other, right? So, that's kind of how that goes, and it just keeps you going. And they still are, but people back then were really into that shit, man. I mean, it was all, and there was no internet, so you couldn't go on. You had Soap Opera Digest and little, like for wrestling, if you were into that, magazines, you kind of see what was going on, but you couldn't go, find out what, watch old episodes unless you were taping it with a VCR, and then, of course, Friday would come around with the big finale, what was going to happen for that week, and then not half the time, but it was so hilarious. A lot of the times they'd break in, CBS would always break in with some news story, like in the 80s, or bombing Libya, or I don't know, some shit happened. Iran-Contra was a big deal for a few years, and so Watergate in the 70s before my time, and so the soap operas time was really cut into, because you didn't have these big networks either, like CNN and Fox and, all the other cable outlets that show news all the time. That was it. I mean, there was CNN, that was around since 1980, but a lot of cable places didn't have it, and, it was kind of an anomaly. It wasn't, like it became in the late 90s into the start of the new century. So, I mean, everything was based out of the networks, right? Out of your local CBS, NBC, CBS, ABC, and then Fox when it came in 87. Then there was the big four. But at first it was just ABC, NBC, CBS forever. And then but they'd all break in, cut into their soap operas and have Dan Rather or Walter Cronkite at the fucking desk blabbering and saying the same shit over and over again, and what happened. We bombed Libya, and, I love Dan Rather, but he'd look all serious like it was fucking, D-Day or some shit. And it's same old mantra to keep people wrapped up, but it's just kind of a thing to kind of mess with people, And it does too, but it does only if you let it. See, that's the thing, is we have slowly started to take back our power, right? There's still a lot of people caught up in it, but they even realize that, they're starting to realize just fuck it, they're kind of just done with it too. And then future generations of kids are too, the ones that are, in their younger 30s, and especially the ones that are coming up. With each 10 years, the DNA it seems like it's on the increase with kids. So they're just, they're old souls, but they're very new to Earth, and, they just don't vibe with the bullshit here. And so, if we don't blow ourselves up, God willing, change is just going to naturally happen. I look at it this way, man. By the end of this century, or by the later part, by the time, the U.S. celebrates, if there is even a U.S., a tricentennial in 2076, yeah. By that time, if we're still around and functioning, I mean, the planet will look so much better. Because it won't. I mean, if we're here and just doing shit at that point, it'll be because, things are a lot better and have got, if they're if nothing stops these kids from doing their thing, you know, it's just going to be a better world. It's just, that's how it's going to go down. Yeah, so, I mean, anyway, that's my 2 cents with everything. But I don't know why I came on here to tell everybody this, but I love everybody, and I look forward to meeting more people on TikTok. I'm mostly out of Facebook on my, you know, page that I run everything out of. It's called Pleiadian Angelic Rainbow Orbs page. Yes, I do have 5 YouTube channels because I've been on there for about 13, 14 years, and, you know, when you had to sign up to do that shit through Google Hangout back then, they'd give you 5 channels, and so I've activated them with all my different pages I've had on YouTube all over the years. You can go to one Facebook page and find out everything I've ever done. It's called Rocken Larry Locken Social Media Outlets, ROCKEN, LARRYLOCKEN. It's ROCKEN in the Rocken, because of course my last name is Locken, LOCKEN. So Rocken Larry Locken Social Media Outlets, all the YouTube pages I've made, all the groups I created years and years ago at the request of the Pleiadians through a spiritual download through my pineal from them. And the YouTube channels, I have 5 of them. I have basically, it's the Larry Locken 1 channel, and then there's the Larry Locken 2, 3, 4, and 5 channel. Now, they used to all have regular names, and they still do, their handle names. They still have their handle names, which used to be their names, but a girl an author, she's pretty cool and famous. I'm not going to mention her name, but, well, maybe I will. Her name's Francesca Rose. We were talking one time, and she said, did you ever think about, this was about a year ago, did you ever think about using your name on your brand? Like and I said, yeah, man, no shit, I thought about it, but I've had this one for 12 years now. She said, I gotta change it. And I said, really, you think so? Yeah. I'm like, are you serious? Because I will. He said, yeah, do it. And I did. And so I went ahead and I took all of them and kept the handle name, which you can do. Most people, their handle name and their YouTube channel name are the same, but you know, I have 3 or 4 Pleiadian related channels and a 1 Arcturian one. But, you know, I'm not going to bore everybody with saying out their names. All right, I got to feed my cat. He's here. He's meowing. There he is. Hi, guy. You want to say hi to TikTok world? Yeah, I know. You're going to go feed. Well, everybody, much love from the Oregon coast. It's been really a pleasant conversation, I think, anyway. And I'm starting to lose my train of thought because he's got me all flustered. Okay, baby, we're going to go get something to eat. All right, peace out, everybody. Much love. Yeah, okay, bud, I'm coming, dude. Come on. I know, always, every time.